So if you're on a limited budget looking to purchase drum equipment, most of the time you're probably going to hear you can't get decent sounding stuff. This video, I'm going to prove that theory wrong. What's going on, everybody? Nick Costa here, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can take a $70 drum and make it sound fantastic. As an educator, I get a lot of folks who reach out to me asking for gear recommendations. Now, regardless of their situation, I always like to provide recommendations of various price points. Now, when it comes to purchasing goods, for some reason, we're always in the mindset of if it costs more, it's better. And there are a lot of times where that is the case. But keep in mind, Acrolites used to be very cheap snare drums. As a matter of fact, I remember buying one in college for $60. You're lucky if you can find one for under $200 now. Now in this video, I'm going to be showcasing a Ludwig steel rocker shell. This is also known as the LM300. Now the LM300 is part of the rocker series, which was not a USA-made Ludwig drum. Just like the Acrolite, this is the model that was put in for student percussion kits. You know, the ones that started out with just a snare drum, a book, and a pair of sticks. Then they progressed to have bell kits. Yeah. This is the drum. Now, unlike the Acrolite, however, for some reason, this one never caught on. Now, with this particular model that I have, it is a 10-lug drum. It's a 5x14 steel shell. Now, this shell has a very basic snare throw-off. Not as smooth as Ludwig's P88 throw-off, but it turns the snare wires off and back on. Same thing with the internal muffler. A lot of people see that big knob on the outside and consider it junk. But if you look at the inside, it pretty much looks the same as any other round internal muffler from Ludwig. Once again, you can turn it on and off. Now, I got this for $70 used on Guitar Center's website. This drum came with a Remo Emperor ebony head on the top and an unnamed head on the bottom. So most likely that bottom head is the stock head that came from Ludwig. Also looks like it has stock snare wires as well. Now in this video, I am gonna completely disassemble the drum, clean it, polish it up. We're actually also gonna upgrade the snare throw off, put the heads of my choice on it, and then we're gonna do a comparison between how it sounded and how it sounds now. So let's start taking this drum apart. So if you look at this shell, it's not in that bad a shape. Kind of gross, but most likely because it was just sitting out somewhere. You can see there's some kind of residue on the shell over here by the internal muffler. There was a sticker on it at some point up there. But all in all, it's not really in that bad a shape. Now, with these cheaper rocker shells, it's not a sponge shell, meaning one piece that gets turned down into a shell. The shell itself is actually welded together, so you can see that there was a point where they joined the shell together and then they just welded it to connect it as one big piece. Just like all the other Ludwig shells, they do have a flanged bearing edge and they do have that lip that does stick out on the outside. So next step is just to take all the lugs off of it so we can clean the shell and then go from there. So the only thing that wasn't taken off is this internal dampener because there's a nut here, and I unfortunately do not have pair of pliers or anything to hold that, to loosen that. Now, if you saw my video on how to clean and restore a metal shell, you're familiar with the fact that I like to use Brasso as a metal polish. I actually got this on clearance at Home Depot for under $3, which is cool, and I've cleaned multiple metal drums with it. But what you want to do is actually grab some gloves and a microfiber cloth, and what you want to do is apply the Brasso to a microfiber and then go around the shell. And that's going to help get rid of some of that residue that's on there due to the stickers. It's going to clean and polish the shell at the same time, which is killer. So let's go ahead and fold up this microfiber I'll apply some Brasso and clean this shell off. Now that we got the majority of that off, go to a dry, clean portion of your microfiber or get a new one, whatever you have, and just wipe the drum down.
Take a look at my life. Need a little more focus. It's the kind of boredom.
All right, so doesn't look all that bad. A little bit of residue, which will come off the more that just kind of wipe it down, everything else. There's one little spot that I saw. Go back and get. There's a scratch, which won't come out. I mean, it is what it is. It's also only a $70 drum. You have to be really up close to see some of those scratches that are in the shell. There's a little nick there. You can see some imprints from the lugs. Once again, you're not really gonna see them once they're back on. All right, so now that this shell is good to go, we're gonna just kind of put it off to the side because the next step is we gotta clean off all the hardware, the lugs. We can actually close out the Brasso. It does smell pretty bad, so make sure you're in a ventilated area. Have fans running. All right, so my favorite, and you saw this from my drum restoration video, I actually love to use Eagle One's Never Dull. Basically, you take a little bit of it and it polishes and cleans, especially for like the smaller hardware. And since this stuff isn't actually caked with a whole lot of dirt, I can just do this. I don't have to worry about soaking the hardware in like a water and Blue Dawn solution to get all of the dirt off. This Never Dull, this weighting polish will actually do everything it needs to do. So you just go around and clean off the hardware. And then once you do, you get a dry microfiber cloth, something different than the one that has the Brasso on it. And you just dry it. So you can see this actually looks pretty solid. Repeat that process for all 10 lugs. Now, as you're doing this, just kind of keep an eye out, take a look at your lugs and see if they have any major scratches or scuff marks. Depending on, how the drum was being taken care of, maybe it was rubbing up against the rack tom, maybe it was on the ground and certain lugs just got scratched up because of it. So just keep an eye out, look for that stuff, and you probably want to just put those lugs towards the back of the drum where it's not going to be seen, or the opposite side of the badge, I should say. Now, if you really wanted to get technical, if you wanted to get rid of all of those scratches and stuff, you'd have to do this multi-step process of sanding, and you would have to go in incremental steps. You'd have to go with a pretty rough sandpaper and work your way down to a super fine grade sandpaper, and then you'd have to actually polish it afterwards. It's a long, tedious process. It is very possible to get those scratches out. You can also make the whole situation a whole lot worse if you are not very careful about it. So once again, this drum isn't too expensive. So I'm okay with a couple scratches or scuffs on lugs and a couple of those scratches on the shell. That really doesn't bother me. I want the drum to look the best it possibly can. And if you're a car fan like I am, it's the car show 10-foot rule. 10 feet away, it looks great. As soon as you get a little bit closer than that, you start to see all of those imperfections and start to get real nitpicky.
If it's weightless and it's white like a ghost. Stepping right now, I can see, so let's go.
Now that they're done, you can do the same thing with the tension rods. Might have some grease on there, might have some dirt. Kind of just wipe that stuff down real quick. Move on to the next one.
Keep your eyes shut so you can break down and throw me out. My obsession, yeah, we know.
All right, so let's move on to the hoops. With the hoops, you can do the same thing. You can either apply Brasso or you can use the Never Dull. I like to use the Never Dull because I think it's a little bit easier. You just take a little chunk of it, and you just go around, clean off the hoop. So not only does this clean, it also polishes at the same time. Now, once again, if it was really bad and dirty, I would have all of the hardware soaked in a solution of water and a touch of Blue Dawn. But this drum actually wasn't that bad. It was most likely just dusty. Has a couple little things here and there. There are a couple marks on these hoops here. So you just kind of want to look around and see where they are. And just go over those sections again with your Neverdull, and you'll see that they actually just come right out. Now, if you have some pitting, there's two options that you can do. Number one is you can try and remove it with the Neverdull. If that doesn't work, you can try a little bit of Brasso and see if that fixes it. If it doesn't, take aluminum foil and some WD-40. You spray the WD-40 on the aluminum foil, and then you actually just rub it against the hoop. And believe it or not, it gets rid of those rust spots and really cleans up your hoop. Yeah, that looks like some pitting from just a little bit of rust. Now keep in mind, if you do have pitting because of rust, if you do remove it, whether it's with the Neverdull, if it's with Brasso, or with aluminum foil and WD-40, it's basically going to get rid of the finish in those areas. Just keep that in mind. It's not per se going to fix it, make a nice smooth finish like it did straight from the factory, but it is going to get rid of the rust, the dirt, all that grime that is causing that to happen, the oxidation to happen. I don't know about you, I'd rather just remove the dirt than keep it on there and let it get worse and worse and worse over time. All right, so now that all of that is done, I'm gonna leave a little bit of this Neverdull out, but we're done with the Brasso. So we can put all of that stuff away, start reassembling the drum. Step number one, putting all the hardware back on the drum. So you can start off with that throw off and butt plate. This is the throw off that was on the drum, not the greatest. It's very generic. If you go and look for your cheapest throw off, most likely you're gonna see something very similar to this. It is effective, however, and gets the job done. Same thing with the butt plate. It's pretty big, right? So what I actually did for 40 bucks is I got one of the brand new P88 AC kits from Ludwig. It was actually 40 bucks online, so they're super affordable. Now, mind you, this drum itself only cost me 70. So if you're looking for just a little upgrade and getting that smoothness of those higher end Ludwig throw-offs, that's exactly what this is. And the greatest part is that I'm pretty sure the spacing is actually identical. So you can easily install this and upgrade any Ludwig drum to one of these. You can do this with old Acrolites, anything with the old P87 throw-offs. Very easy to do. The really cool thing with this kit is that they give you 3 different types of screws. Actually, 4 different types of screws. They're actually all different lengths. So they're all number 8 screws, and they're 32, but the length of them is either 10, 12, 14, or 18. So depending on the type of shell that you have, depends on the type of screw that you put in. Now, in this case, because this is a metal shell, it's thinner. So I need to use the smallest screw, and we'll see if that works. So how do you know the difference between a throw-off and a lug? Notice the lug spacing's a little bit closer, throw-off's a little further away. And there you go. Took a little bit, but made it work. I had a really difficult time seeing the other side once it was on. So just be careful when you're putting that on. Be patient. Make sure you don't cross thread it. Now, let's check and see if this actually lines up. Yeah, looks like we're good. You also want to check, make sure that you put that on straight. It can go on crooked, so just be mindful of that. So before I start putting the lugs on, I want to take a look at it. Here's the thing that you want to see. Notice that throw off ends up going on the left side. That's where I prefer it, which means the badge is going to face me. So I actually want to take a look at these lugs, and the ones that have the most scratches, I'm going to go on the opposite side, and we'll have them covered up by the rack top. Now, a lot of folks will talk about packing lugs to make sure that they don't rattle or vibrate, but obviously there are no springs in here, so you don't have to worry about that.
Tell me, do you feel so cold? It was late when I asked her. She was down, so we went home.
All right, so now that the drum has been cleaned and assembled with all hardware, it is time to put the hoops and the heads on. Now, I did get new heads for this. My heads of choice are the Remo Ambassador X coated, and then just the regular Ambassador snare side head. So if you saw my video on how to tune a snare drum, then you already know my process. If you haven't seen that, I'm going to put a link. It's going to pop up right on the top right corner for you to check out. But got to install those hoops and heads, and thanks to the magic of video editing, I'm going to get it done in 3, 2, 1. All right, so now that the drum is tuned, all set to go, just friendly reminder, new heads, they do tend to stretch out, so they do detune pretty quickly. Some folks will say just let it sit for a day or so it can stretch out a bit and then retune it. I want to play this. I want to hear what it sounds like. So let's get it on the kit. And there you have it. See, a simple, cheap, $70 steel snare drum can go a long way. If you liked this video, whether it was me going over the cleaning process, upgrading the snare throw-off, or if you just want to give me your opinion on how the drum sounds, make sure you leave a comment below. Now, if you're curious as to the products that I use to clean the drum, or if you need the exact information on the snare throw-off, I've also put that in the description below. And while you're here, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification. That way you're notified anytime I upload a new video to the channel. In my personal opinion, I think this $70 snare drum sounds pretty great. So if you are looking for a snare drum, search for the Ludwig Rocker LM300. You can search Guitar Center's used website, Reverb, eBay, anywhere. The prices vary, but at the time of this recording, you can search and find them for about $70. And that is it. Thank you so much for checking out this video, and until next time, see you later.